Welcome to Monday, October 7th, 2024. As we start a new week, I wish I could have something different to talk about, but it's just like a broken record, a Groundhog Day. The pattern just keeps repeating itself. We're going to continue to be warm, we're going to continue to have smoky haze, and we continue to have no significant precipitation, at least here for the next 5 days. Probably longer as the pattern remains stuck in gear. Now, not all bad news, although I don't have a lot of good news in terms of this pattern breaking. We're going to be looking at this warm, dry pattern persisting, but this is the good news. We don't see a high wind event like we did this past weekend that really blew up the pack trail at Elk Fires. That just really exacerbated the fire situation. We, though, are still going to be in a very low humidity dominated pattern, a high pressure dominated pattern, and although we might see a weak trough come into the western United States this weekend into early next week, I just don't see that there's going to be much weather with it. I think some clouds, some cooler temperatures, and a little bit of shower activity in some areas by the weekend and early next week in parts of the west could occur. But in that big change, that big fundamental pattern change that we need is just not here, and we're still looking at around or after the 18th of the month. That's when things are going to be happening. That's when we're going to finally start to see things change to the point where we're going to have some better opportunities for colder, wet weather that we desperately need to come in. But this extremely stubborn pattern will continue to be, well, extremely stubborn. And so the fire activity is something that we're just going to have to continue to deal with because we're just not going to get any help from Mother Nature at all. As evidenced by that big smoke plume, this was taken on Friday, visible all the way from Gillette from the Elk Fire. And then from the pack trail fire, you can see that the fires are working together. Fire activity has picked up into Idaho, a new fire in northeastern Utah, spreading a lot of smoke and haze back into the region. And with high pressure overhead and no precipitation chances coming, we're just not going to get into any precipitation. Now, we did talk a lot about the Aurora Borealis. That ended up being a big disappointment. Now, it did come out last night in some areas, but the smoke and haze really caused a bit of a problem. And that smoke and haze will be a concern if we have any activity with the Aurora tonight. The first activity with the Aurora was really expected to be coming in Friday night into Saturday, and that never materialized. And what came in Saturday night into Sunday morning never really materialized, but we did get a little bit of Aurora activity last night. The satellite imagery this morning, it just looks the same. As we continue to harp on, we've got to change the weather up here. As long as it's stormy up here, cloudy, cool, and wet up in the Gulf of Alaska, northwest Canada, we have a semi-permanent low pressure here and a permanent, semi-permanent high pressure ridge in the west. And that's just not going to change. As you can see here, this configuration is responsible for the high pressure, persistent high pressure here, and the persistent low pressure along the East Coast, making it favorable for Hurricane Milton to head right towards Florida. We'll talk about that tomorrow a little bit more. We're just stuck. So here's today, and then here is Sunday. So you can see that the basic configuration is the same. The only difference is a little bit of energy comes off from this main low into California by the weekend. But even by Sunday, it's only into California and Nevada, and it's detached. It's kind of just split off. It's not hooked up to the real cold and energy of the main jet stream pattern. So this stuck jet stream pattern remains stuck through the weekend. So the weather is just not going to change. Now, I don't think it's going to be as warm. So temperatures are going to be a little less above average, but still above average. With very low humidity, you're going to have some cold nights, but some warm days. And we're looking at this configuration for the next 7 days. So this takes us through the 13th of October. And there's your precipitation forecast. You can see Hurricane Milton going to go right through Florida here, thankfully avoiding the Carolinas and Georgia. But a lot of the U.S., it's just not here, but a lot of the U.S. just not going to get any precipitation. It's all staying up north and coming from the Pacific Northwest there. Now, this is out to nearly 10 days. This is out to 9 days from now. So this takes us to the 16th of October. We're starting to see chinks in the armor of the block starting to develop. Now, we're seeing stronger potential for fronts starting to come in by then, but that's the 16th. Today's the 7th. So this is going to be a while. Once this pattern breaks, it really will break, and we'll do a 180 from where we are now. But we're just not there yet, so we'll continue to watch these out days, these days that are 9, 10, 15 days out, before we can start to see things go in our favor to get this high pressure ridge to build up here to replace the low, to allow the jet stream to start migrating back south into the region. Now keep in mind, when you get into blocking patterns, which happen during La Niñas, especially as you go into the cold season, and in the middle of summer, you'll sometimes get these blocks that are stubborn. Once it does go and change, then you could settle into the pattern that's the opposite for a bit, as things always tend to even out in the long run. The short run, though, certainly is going to be the same. So, not much to talk about this morning. We'll have hopefully more to talk about tomorrow. We'll see you then.